just wanted to take the time, learn all the things that I could about you. Now it's such a mess here. Oh, we are just stressed here. Used to be so easy with you.
Thanks for coming on Everything Sparkle, John. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Sparkle. How you doing? It's great to be on here.
I'm doing good. So, John, tell us about yourself, because you do a lot of different things. You're all over the place. Tell us.
Yeah. Well, I do a lot of things. I used to be the mayor of the city that I'm in here. I'm in the place called the Municipality of Clarington. It's at the eastern end of the Greater Toronto area, about 120,000 people, and we're home to. We're basically the nuclear city here because we got the nuclear power plant. So
Nice.
right on the base of Lake Ontario. So I was elected here for about 10 years. I do government relations. I'm a developer. I'm in the psilocybin and the cannabis sectors as well as I used to be a competitive bodybuilder up until about 2014, and now I'm a competitive jiu-jitsu athlete. My daughter is a two-time jiu-jitsu world champion, and I do stick my toe in the acting water every once in a while. And I've seen you had my friend Alain Delaby on here a few weeks ago.
Yeah, wow, you do everything. So how did you go from being in the bodybuilding world to being the mayor? What was the main job there?
Well, I always trained when I was younger. And then so I was elected mayor. I was elected around the age of 31. So I was, at one point in time, I was something like the youngest mayor ever elected in Canada. I think now it says I was the 5th youngest mayor ever elected. And it's just because mayors are usually older. They've been established within their city for quite some time, not like a senator or a governor, or we have up here members of parliament who get elected through a party banner. Either here it's the Conservatives, the Liberals, and down I know you have the Republicans and the Democrats. So it's the same kind of thing. And then I left politics in about end of 2006, and I started my company. And in 2007, I always wanted to do a bodybuilding show. So I said, I'm going to do just one. And then that year, I ended up doing 4. I went to the national.
You became a bodybuilder after you were mayor? The bodybuilding came after being mayor.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So one of the politicians started to call me, my last name's Mutton, so they called me the Muttonator, because Arnold went from bodybuilding to being the governor, and then I went from politics to bodybuilding. So it was kind of funny that way, but they're very similar. I actually did a documentary on the Discovery Channel, and when you take a look at both bodybuilding and politics, there's one thing that's ever present with the competitors in both, and that's ego. Big egos. And a lot of hard work, mind you.
Well, same with acting too, I imagine. So you have all of them.
We actually our new movie that Elaine was in with me. My God, it's been sitting on the books for quite some time now, for about 3 years, called The Bloodslinger. It's set to debut at the Toronto International Film Fest, TIFF. So one of the better film fests. So it's supposed to be up, and we're quite pleased with that one. I play I'm a marshal in the movie, so it's a Western horror, and I'm in the Old West days. I was a marshal, but I was also the hitman for the mafia guy in town. So I was always walking behind him, protecting him, and I ended up being the guy that was going out and killing the people on the plantation where he wanted to reclaim his family land, obviously for railroad and other financial reasons. So it was a pretty cool movie. I enjoyed doing it, and the producer is Albert Zaffini, and he's Albanian, but he lives in Toronto. He also owns Miss World, So it's really cool.
Wow.
And we got another movie coming up that he's going to fill me in on the end of August that I'm going to be in. And it's, I think it's going to be a really cool movie. I think it's going to be along the mafiosa side, something like that. So, but I don't know why. I was in a couple videos and I was in a couple commercials. They keep making me play the bad guy, Sparkle. I don't know why.
And now, well, now it must be the size. You still got that, you know, that bodybuilding stuff. They always make the big people, the big guys, be the bad guys. So
yeah, I know. You know, they'd be very surprised if they gave me a couple lines because I can read.
wow. So what's your main thing now that you do?
Well, we do a lot of. My company's doing a lot of development. We do a lot of development in terms of building subdivisions, different types of plants. But we've got a couple of projects. Pardon?
All in Toronto.
All across Toronto, all across Ontario, condos and so on. But our big play now is in psilocybin or mushrooms, right? Magic mushrooms, wow. as well as cannabis. So I'm in the cannabis sector on two fronts, and I've got equity in a very large cannabis build here, but I also have equity in the psilocybin end. So I actually I traveled to Croatia. My wife's from Croatia, so when I was in Croatia, I said, "Do you know that the World Mushroom Museum is in Zagreb, Croatia?" So we went there. So I have a very good working relationship with them now. And but in Canada, very similar to Colorado, psilocybin is going to be very quickly on the scene as a medical in a medical form here. Very similar to how cannabis became decriminalized. It came out with medical cannabis, and now it's full recreational usage. So, so that's an emerging sector. It's really exciting. So many different products and things coming out of there. You know, people now using natural things like the mushroom and the cannabis to counteract things like PTSD, and I just think it's a lot better for people rather than, you know, you see the opiate dependency and dependency on other types of drugs that it's just not the way I think that anyone should go. But using something more natural like this, well, you can see by the markets and how some of the companies are doing that, it's extremely well, and it's the way to move forward.
So was that a big thing in Canada? When did all of this start happening, where everything started becoming legalized and the science behind it? And how was that like when you were mayor? What were you?
It actually started to happen regarding the cannabis was probably about 5 or 6 years ago. When the Liberal government was elected under Justin Trudeau, he was a big supporter of cannabis and decriminalizing cannabis, and they actually they didn't have any rules or regulations to begin with that you can say of. They basically threw a skeleton out there, and you know we had to pack it with and build the body around it. But that's what happened, and that's how quickly it came to play here. And now we have a lot of our U.S. Companies that we deal with. I have a company in the U.S. as well that you know, they come to Canada because we're so far ahead on the cannabis end, because we're, I guess it's so federally in Canada. When they make a decision that yes, cannabis will be allowed, that means that every province has to accept it. Where obviously down in the United States, you go state by state,
right,
governance over cannabis. So that's the difference. So if Biden had the power to say that we're going to do cannabis and the states couldn't veto it, then you would see it right across the U.S. However, it just shows you a different way that the power is set up. Yours on more of a state level, and ours is set up more on a federal level. to
Nice.
regulate it. And we've got an election coming up. So it's going to be very interesting because Canada has mishandled COVID like no other country.
In what way?
And we did not get our vaccines. We did not have masks. We did not have any of the PPE set up. It was we actually probably had the same. I would say a third world country would be in line with Canada with how they were set up and how we were set up and how we were able to get vaccines. It was terrible. They actually got played by China, stating that, oh, we're going to send you quite a bit of a vaccine, which never happened. I believe China did that because of the issues that are going on between China and Canada. And we're holding, on behalf of the United States, the president of Hawaii's daughter. So we're holding her, and she's not having a hard life while we're holding her for trials and extradition to the U.S. I think she's living in a luxury hotel of Hawaii. That's the giant mobile phone and the giant mobile company in China. Hawaii.
Okay.
Yeah, they're like the biggest players in the mobile and in that tech sector in China for exports. So it's
their daughter.
And they have a lot of political power. So, yeah, their daughter. Yes. Yeah. So that's a big thing at play here. I guess it's something that the president and the prime minister talk about quite a bit. But meanwhile, we've had for 2 years. We've had 2 gentlemen in captivity over in jail in China. So it's a sad situation. It was, and again, this is going to all reflect in this federal election here. And well, you guys went to an election during COVID, so you know what it was like with the presidential election. And so it's obviously a lot of things have been dealt with now because of vaccinations and so on. But in Canada, everyone still has to wear a mask
everywhere,
and it's not nearly as open as many of the states.
So people have to wear a mask everywhere, and like, what about movie theaters? Are they open?
Everywhere you got to wear them. We just had the first outdoor concert, and everyone had to wear a mask at the concert. The economy has suffered here from 3 shutdowns, and they were major shutdowns. And
are things open like
curfew?
Or what about movie theaters? Are they open or are they closed?
Many of them closed. They are now open.
Okay,
and,
so right now some things are opening as long as everyone wears a mask.
Many of our malls just opened actually about 3 weeks ago.
Wow. And what about vaccines? What's going on with that?
Well, there's a war between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. We can see that the federal government are requiring that anybody that work there be vaccinated. We know that there's about 20% unvaccinated in Canada, and I think that number is going to stay fairly true to that 20% because it seems to be that there's about 20% that don't believe in the vaccination. Same as, I think the number pretty much holds true in the U.S. as well. And some of the requirements coming around the vaccinations have caused quite a bit of trouble. They're talking about a vaccine passport in Canada. So if you want to travel anywhere, you have to have a passport that reflects that you've had both your shots. So it's we have a charter of rights and freedoms up here, very similar to the Constitution, and many are saying that the charter of rights and freedoms has been breached to force the vaccinations on people, and so it's a big argument about taking away rights.
Wow. So how do you feel about all this? And where were you when you were a mayor? Were you on the conservative side or the liberal side?
Well, one thing in Canada, which we're very fortunate, is that we don't have to declare a party when you're in municipal politics. So
really? So you never did that? You never declared one?
No. So I was basically, so you're basically, most people are elected independent, which they would either have conservative or liberal leanings. So you're elected as an independent because in my mind, if, so let's just say the Republicans have a really good bill that's coming out. And if I was a Democratic mayor, if this is good bill and if this bill is good for my city, then I got to support it and I got to get behind it. Same time, if the Republicans are coming out with something that was not good for my city, that's going to increase costs and decrease services, then I'd have to fight back against that. So I think it's a really good way to do things in Canada, as you sit as an independent when you're in the municipal level of government. Since I've left, I lean further to the right. I'm not an extremist of any kind. So like the extreme right and the extreme left, I don't have much to talk to those people about, although I do like guns. So and we sit in amazement over American politics. And like I say, I spend a lot of time in the U.S. Before COVID. I used to live in Arizona for 3 years, and nice. And then I had offices in New York, Arizona, and over in Dublin, California, and so spent a lot of time down there, and very familiar with a lot of the mayors and elected folks down there, and it's just so interesting when we watch the transition from Obama to Trump, and then through all of that. We have people, I'm sure CNN has seen, hardly any Canadians are watching CNN anymore because Donald Trump isn't the president, because it was their source of entertainment for so long. So it's but we're just sat in amazement, and it's because we actually have a third party up here called the New Democrat Party, and they are very far left leaning, very far, and so most of the socialists end up there, and so we have a three-party system. There's a fourth party called the Green Party, but
is it the same as our Green Party?
Yeah, it's very similar. It's
okay.
Yeah, very, very similar. So where if you have Republicans and Democrats, I know the number, like when you see it was sitting around 50-50 during the elections. That was such a tight election, the last election. We're up here. There are more people sitting left of the conservative side. They have more liberal leanings. However, I have a feeling that that's going to change over the next few years. There always seems to be some kind of an adjustment. We don't ever want to see the same party in forever, right? Because we want to, that's why we have a democratic system with debate and so on. Yeah.
So would you ever get back into politics? I'm sure people want you to.
I would never ever run for municipal politics again. I'll tell you that. And if there was, there's a very good friend of mine. If he was to become leader federally or provincially, I would consider it then. But I'm having too much fun in the private sector. I don't have to live my life in a fishbowl. I enjoy what I do. I get to train all the time. I can prep my meals too. I know, that's so important. It's, 95% of your body is made in the kitchen, right? So, so that's, we'll just have to see when the time comes and how everything looks with respect to the political lay of the land, but not anytime soon.
Wow. And so right now you're focusing on your companies. your bodybuilding, your acting. I mean, do people sometimes be like, it's a funny transition going from politics to now you're selling weed or cannabis? Do people ever say that? That's kind of interesting. Or
well, it's really funny because up here it's so much more accepted. You used to have the people 5 years ago, about weed and cannabis, and they would be so upset. But now we see some of those same people using CBD oil or getting a medicinal cannabis for their arthritis, for different things. So those,
I know,
and actually,
I have an aunt like that. The aunt that's very anti, and know she's doing that now. So.
Yeah, and she's not getting high. She's not getting high, but she's getting pain relief and she's getting better.
Right. So what do you think the differences are between all of this? And I'm always trying to I've had a lot of CBD people, a lot of cannabis people. What's the difference between, tell us the differences in a nutshell of what you think and what you've seen and what you noticed.
On the cannabis side?
Right. So I was saying CBD oils, this cannabis, this.
Yeah. So okay. So in the U.S. we see a lot of cannabis products that are CBD that's been generated from hemp, right? It's a different type of CBD. Hemp is like a brother sister plant with cannabis, but we've seen some products that are being created. For instance, we were doing some work with a doctor out of New York, and he created a product that was to help autistic kids. So he had an autistic child, and he was, I wouldn't say he used him as a guinea pig, but he administered some CBD to him, and they were sitting around the dinner table like an hour after he had been, and he didn't talk. This autistic child, and so he was at the dinner table, and he said, "Do you think we can go into town for a drive tonight?" And everyone just said, "What?" Just amazing. And we've seen like especially inflammatory type things. So that's the end. Like obviously, being a jiu-jitsu competitive fighter myself, we don't want to see people using opiates. We want to see people using, and so they use the CBD for inflammation. Obviously, there has to be some changes in the performance enhancing drugs laws, because we see that a lot of the guys, if they test positive for cannabis or THC, the psychedelic end of it, then they can't fight. We've seen like that's what Nick Diaz went through for the last few years. But again, it's something they're gonna have to change. There's a big difference between taking anabolic steroids and having a joint. Like I really don't see that. I really don't see the performance enhancement of THC in cannabis per se. But especially when these people can legally take opiates, Percocets and so on, for back pain, knee pain, which obviously you train as well, and that every once in a while you'll get you'll get some type of a joint inflammation, and you'd rather have the natural type of therapy rather than going to something like a drug.
Popping pills,
Yes, popping pills. So I see some changes coming up there.
So you support that. So do you ever think that it decreases your performance doing some of these things, or not really?
Well, I think CBD won't decrease your performance. If you, I think that, I don't know, if you're a heavy THC user, you probably are going to have some decreased performance because you end up, from what I'm not the expert, but from what I've seen and read, that sometimes there's, a serotonin dump out of your body, which would, where you constantly need the THC. However, the products that we're mostly talking about are the ones that are just great for athletes. And there's topical ones too. which obviously they don't get into the bloodstream. Topical CBD that would go on knee, shoulder, muscle, that helps as well. The doctor out of New York that I was telling you about, there's a gel that you can get in the if you have a sore tooth or having dental work done, that numbs the tooth. And I forget what it's called, but he actually created a product out of cannabis that you put in at the gel, and it actually numbs your tooth. So you don't have any side effects from that, and like an artificial drug. So and it's even more amazing with what's going to go on, I think, with psilocybin, because people are now using magic mushrooms, and they're microdosing, which means it's a tiny dose. They're taking that instead of anti-anxiety pills or antidepressants, and they're finding that that's doing way better for them. And I think that the evolution of that is you're going to probably see the same type of anti-inflammatory type of uses as well. So, as an athlete, I think it's going to fit right in.
John, so now you said that you kind of moved over from bodybuilding to jiu-jitsu. Tell us about that.
Well, I was about 265 pounds trying to climb Camelback Mountain in Tempe, and which is not a big mountain. And I looked great, but I had people going past me of all shapes and sizes. My legs were just pumped trying to go up the mountain. I said, I officially retire from bodybuilding now. So then I started, I had a black belt in karate since I was, when I was a young in high school. I did karate, I did martial arts, and I actually used to spar with Nick Rupa, who fought Terrible Terry Norris for the welterweight championship of the world. So I was around the fighting scene for a while. And then I started to take kickboxing, kung fu, and I became a licensed boxer under Everton McEwen up here. At the same time, my daughter was going down out of the bodybuilding route into the jiu-jitsu route as well. And we were both doing it quietly from one another. We didn't want to tell each other that, oh, I'm leaving bodybuilding. So she was doing jiu-jitsu. I didn't know about it. I was doing boxing and kung fu. She didn't know about it. And then, so she got me, she won the world championship in, I guess it was about 6 years ago now, or 5 years ago. She won her first world championship in California over at the Walter Pyramid. And so I got into it as well. No, actually, I've been doing jiu-jitsu 7 years, so she must have won it 6 years ago. So then I started to compete. I won Los Angeles in the old man's class, the master's class. New York, Miami. I competed in Boston, and then as a white belt, I finished third in the world down at the Walter Pyramid. And so then I had my daughter continued on. She's won the Pan Ams for 5 years in a row, I believe. And her husband is Igor Makaiber, and he's a legend in jiu-jitsu. And I think he's ranked third in the world right now. So they have they just opened up their own club over here close to my city. And
what are the parallels? What do you think is like the same or different? Like, what helped you guys in the bodybuilding world with jiu-jitsu? Because it seems like you transitioned and then became very good at it.
So a lot of people, first of all, would think strength from bodybuilding.
Okay.
It's not. It's the dedication from the diet.
Okay.
So if you can dedicate yourself to that diet, if you can go 16 weeks and you're not eating sugar, you're not eating the types of, French fries and hamburgers and different things.
Drinking diet sodas.
Yeah, that's a dedication that's well beyond what, with those cravings and fighting those cravings. Right. You can apply that dedication to anything in your life, business, sports, you're going somewhere.
Right.
Yeah. And I got chicken and rice here for after the interview.
You're awesome, John. We got to follow you everywhere. So Instagram, you're just John Mutton on Instagram.
Yes, I think it's under @Muttonator. Yeah.
Oh, at Muttonator. Okay, and then
I'm on LinkedIn. My Facebook is inactive. I don't go on there that much. But I'm on Twitter, and I'm on Twitter too. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on my show, John. You're very fascinating. I love how you do so many different things, and you seem to be great at everything you do.
Thanks, Sparkle. I do love your show too. Everything about it is first class, from the people that you have on. It's interesting. Your interviews are great. And I love your music lead-ins. That's one of the things I said, geez, I love that.
Oh, thanks. That's my cousin that sings. So.
Oh, really?
Wow. Yeah. So
outstanding.
Awesome. Aubrey Danielle on SoundCloud. That's her. She's really good. Thank you.
Excellent.
Hi, welcome to Everything Sparkle. I'm happy to have you on today. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
I'm good. So you got some interesting things going on. Interesting story. I love that sun behind you.
Thank you. I think it gives some class to my office a little bit. That's probably the best thing in here.
So tell us about yourself.
So my story is pretty weird. So basically I'm a fitness instructor. I do mostly personal training. But I got into fitness probably in my later 20s. Mm-hmm. And it kind of took a weird route. I started with CrossFit, and then starting with CrossFit, I ended up blowing my knee out and getting injured, and then starting to want to figure out why I blew my knee out, because I blew my knee out for a reason. It wasn't just because my knee was bad. So I started a process of trying to learn to understand movement patterns, and realizing a lot of movement patterns are why we end up getting injured. So it gave me a way to help my clients, but it allowed me to also leave CrossFit and help people with, I would say, functional fitness, so that life's basically easy. And so basically you're avoiding getting injured and learning how to move properly. Like I said, I got into fitness, like I said, in my later 20s.
So how'd you injure your knee?
Got you. Sorry, I'm all over the place. I'm kind of nervous.
Because you studied it. So since you studied how all this happened, what did you come up with of how you injured it?
I injured it because I have basically the foundations of my feet weren't laid out properly. On
one foot or both feet?
Both feet. So I guess when I was younger, I did a lot of skateboarding, which led to rolling my ankle at a young age. Rolling your ankle at a young age leads to impingements. I had an impingement in my right ankle, which doesn't allow my right ankle to move forward, which your knee should go over your toes and like squatting and stuff like that.
Right.
But not allowing my right ankle to go because I had that impingement. So my nervous system would shut off and not allow me to do that because I had that pain. My left knee took all that movement. And so my left knee had to cave inward. And so eventually that movement pattern ended up blowing out my left knee, but it wasn't because of my left knee. It was because of my right ankle not having movement there.
What could you have done to prevent that, though, besides not obviously not exercising so vigorously. And how do people know what's wrong with them?
I always go straight to your feet. Your feet are your foundation. The foundation of your feet are neglected almost always. So I do a lot of like foam rolling on my feet, learning how to use my toes. Most people don't know how to use their toes at all. They're basically, our shoes are like a cast. And when you have a cast on, it atrophies your foot. And so your foot gets weak, and again, your foundation's weak. So then your ankle gets weak. So your ankle rolls inward, your knee follows that. So I tell people to foam roll their feet and actually learn how to move their toes and separate their toes. And that's a lot harder than most people think. They think they can do that, and they normally cannot.
So I can separate my toes on one foot and not the other. Why is that?
That other foot has better movement and strength in it. So I would again foam roll. When I say foam roll, that obviously you can't use a foam roller. So I end up using a lacrosse ball. A lacrosse ball kind of targets that area more, and those muscles are almost locked in position because we start wearing shoes at such a young age. So we start wearing shoes before we can even walk, and then our feet are in a basically, I say it's a cast. I wear shoes too, but I try to wear them less, or I try to get barefooted shoes. You can get barefooted shoes that don't look like toe shoes. They look like normal shoes. They just have a wider base and not a raised
Good.
heel.
I really don't like those shoes at all.
No one does. So when I say
Why
that,
do they bother me so much? They really bother me.
Yeah, because they look weird. They look weird. And so when I bring that up, I do try to make that clear to people because nobody really likes the toe-looking shoes. But they have some good brands like Vivo Barefoot. They make a barefooted shoe where there's no cushion in the shoe, which is the cushion is what is making your feet weak. Your foot was designed to feel the ground and maneuver around the ground. We weren't designed with shoes on. We just end up losing that. And that's where I think a lot of our back pain ends up coming from.
Right.
Is the foundation. We end up being front chain dominant, which is why everybody's quads get big unless you're a girl that just works on booty workouts all the time. Most people's quads just get big really, really quickly. And that's because we're front chain dominant. And that's from a design that Nike did in, I think it was like the 1960s. They wanted to make like a better running shoe. So they made a small toe box, which is where your feet are. They're supposed to be spreading your toes out, but it made it more narrow. And then they raised the heel. So then if you look at someone standing barefooted, they lean further back. But if they put on running shoes or like a Nike style of shoe, they'll be leaning forward. So then their quads are being activated more than their glutes and hamstrings. So then we have a weakness there, which leads to, again, that back pain because your front chain is doing all the work.
So the best thing to do anything, like to start off, is to get the right shoes. And then what about those of us that don't have you? Like, should we go to a podiatrist? Should we go to a chiropractor? Who can give us some guidance besides you?
I would go to a sports chiropractor, not just a chiropractor. So I'd make sure they have like physical therapy style stuff and different stuff besides just going in there and getting adjusted. And adjustment is helpful, but adjustment is just to get you aligned for you to learn how to use your body properly. So I would make sure that it's a sports chiropractic, not just a regular chiropractor. I think that's important because you can go to a regular chiropractor and get adjusted, and 20 minutes later, you're just right back into pain.
And they can give us guidance on the shoes too, because I think it's really hard. Everyone's trying to endorse themselves. How do we get an unbiased? I can see you're unbiased. I mean, no one knows like footwear is giving you money for this. How do we get an unbiased opinion on what we should be doing?
I would look for least amount of cushion. Normally it'd have to be something that's bought online. There's such a rare shoe at this point. I do think in time they'll take over because of the more I kind of look at more of the professional athletes right now, they're starting to slowly turn into focusing on that part that we ended up neglecting, I would say, in history of sports. It's just in the history of sports, that spot wasn't really neglected until recent times because the shoes were made more barefooted, and now they're not. They're made for style and how good you look while you wear them. So now it's hard for them to make a shoe that has the performance of your foot being able to be functional and have style compared to like everybody has Jordans on, but your foot's not going to move very well in a pair of Jordans.
Yeah, and it's funny you say all this because I have gout, and so I really do need to find the right shoe, and I'm on my feet way more than I should be and doing a lot. So when you started learning all this, what were some of the things you discovered, and how did you learn all this?
Again, I started with CrossFit, and I was working in the oil fields. I actually worked on an oil rig. I worked a lot too. We worked 6 on daylights, 3 off, 6 on nights, 3 off. They were 13.5-hour towers. So where I worked for 13.5 hours. And then it was a 45-minute drive there, 45-minute drive back. And I got into fitness because my boss was basically telling me I should go because I was fat, which I wasn't fat. But he was telling me I should go, and we're rough out there. So he's being rough about it. And then so I couldn't allow my pride to do that. So I got into the fitness for the competition aspect. And then
how do you have time when you're working those big, long days?
I gave up sleep. I learned to sleep on the fly, kind of. It was a skill that wasn't healthy for the time it was being done, but
right.
That's no longer the issue. And I know that wasn't healthy, and I couldn't contain that forever. There's no way. I actually ended up hating the rigs and chose to leave. That job was a high paying job.
I know.
To pursue fitness in the process of that. So I ended up, I had a house, brand new trucks, and ended up losing basically everything because I chose the path to leave that. I kind of felt like you're stuck in a rut. Like I hated what I did, but I always had to be there. And there's certain things that happened. Like my grandpa passed away and I chose to go to work instead of saying goodbye when I could have said goodbye.
Wow.
And there was just certain moments that I knew I was wasting my life away I was like 23, 24 years old working nonstop. Wow. So I ended up making that jump. The job that I had first in a CrossFit gym, I ended up losing out of, I would say, dumb mistakes I was making, just trying to figure myself out at that time. We didn't leave on good terms, but I ended up going back and working there again and being good friends with the owners again.
Before you got injured.
Say that again. I didn't hear.
Before you got injured, right?
I actually got injured at that gym. And
then you went back to work there?
I was working there at that time still. So the beginning, I worked there. I got injured there, had knee surgery, and that's kind of where the beginning of my coaching started. But I left that gym to go work more with a personal one-on-one style trainer. And he gave me a lot of guidance in the line of it's more business than it is just fitness. Like I got to teach myself how to be a businessman compared to I'm just a coach. And crazy thing with his story, he was going through court at that time for federal. He was facing federal prison for he was taking marijuana out of the evidence room and selling it back on the streets because he was an undercover police officer. And he left that job, opened up a gym, but he was going to court through that. And I knew that he was doing that. He's actually in prison right now. But
he gave you a lot of great fitness advice or business.
Yeah, he
advice.
did. He's actually a really, really good guy. It just seems crazy that he's the one that gave me the advice. And then he did that. Obviously, I disagree with what he did, but he's a good dad and good. He did it for good reason. So I'm just glad that that's almost over for him because we are still friends. I don't hate. I'm not upset that he did that. He did that before we met, and he was just facing the consequences of what he chose earlier in life. And but he gave me that guidance, and I wasn't really making a lot with him. I was making maybe like $100 a week trying to survive, and I actually became homeless and kind of started to sneak around sleeping in his gym. He didn't really know that as far as I knew, but he again was super cool. I don't think he would have ever told me anything. He would have just allowed me to do that because I was helping him with clients and stuff like that. And we were kind of growing, but I knew court was going on for him, and he was going to have to face that soon. So that time did get close to coming. So he moved me to where I'm at now, which is it's called Elite Fitness Center in Bakersfield, California. We went to Starbucks, and we probably had about 10 clients at the time together, and he just paid me, again, a very small percentage. I was barely surviving. And he told me to meet at Starbucks because we're going to have an important meeting, which I thought I was going to get a pay raise, and he was going to stick around and take percentage while I did a lot of stuff. And he actually gave me all his clients that day. So I went
what was
from
that all
making,
about?
nothing to now I can actually pursue this. Yeah, I was very emotional. I cried inside Starbucks as he handed me that because I didn't know that my life was about to change. I thought I was going to make a little more money. And I kind of already knew that the universe pushed me in this direction. Like, I didn't leave my job for no reason. Like, I knew there was a reason. I made problems with certain people just to pursue this, and I knew it was for me. And I knew that, especially at that moment, that the universe is like, keep going. And then I ended up coming to where I am now, which is Elite Fitness Center. I started to do a little bit of the coaching, and slowly within a year, I started to become the manager here and help with classes, run classes. And then obviously have my own clients and got more clients than Logan helped me get in the first place.
Was he the owner?
Say that again.
Was he the owner, and then he gave you the...
He was the owner, but he ended up selling that place, which I kind of helped him move out. I knew when we switched over of the place that he had, which was a very tiny little gym, that we were going to pay rent and come to Elite, which we already did that. Like, he already paid the first month rent to the owner of the new place. And
so he was moving out of one spot and then moving his stuff into another gym.
Exactly. Well, he kept all his gym equipment and sold some of it. And then we went to a new gym just with our clients. That gym already had all the equipment.
Nice.
Yeah. And then, so that being said, this facility actually has like basketball courts, and we rent out volleyball courts. And we actually just became the new spot for, it's a semi-pro basketball league. It's called the Basketball League is what it is, the TBL. And we are the home practice facility for Bakersfield Magic, which will be our pro team for Bakersfield.
Wow.
So it's been a very fast process from making $20 every 2 days to we're going to have real athletes in here, and I get to help them reach their goals, you know.
That's really cool. So I don't know the timeline of all this. When did you do all this? When did that happen where you guys moved to Elite?
It's been about 2 years now.
How did COVID affect all of this? Because that's how to put a damper on a lot of stuff. Like, here you get a nice new start, and then boom, gyms are closing. Or did you guys not close? I went to gyms that didn't close, so I don't judge.
Yeah, I know. We kind of closed. We stopped our classes. We didn't run classes for a good amount of time, especially the first lockdown. And then we allowed our one-on-one clients to make the decision on if they wanted to come in. And then the second lockdown, I don't know what he is. Sheriff Donnie Youngblood basically said that we're not going to obey by a lot of California's mandated rules in our business.
Okay. So the Bakersfield guy was kind of on your side a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Again, it's such a weird time, so it's always guessing everything. Like, we don't know what we're going to really get in trouble for, what you're not going to get in trouble for. So you just got to like ride that line, and everybody's trying to survive at this point, to make their own money. And so we did well. We did really well in a time where I think most people had it a lot rougher than we had.
So then you guys just soldiered on. You maintained your clients, and then now that we're out of that bubble, now you're getting a sports team.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, COVID basically just stopped about that whole year. From 3 months of classes is basically all it shut us down from. And then, yeah, now our whole community actually has a new basketball league. And they've actually already started doing community work here in Bakersfield, and that's super new. So it's cool that we get to be their home facility for that basketball team, but it's also cool because they're here helping our community. We actually, the mayor of Bakersfield even came to their press conference, which was, I think, only like last week. We had a press conference, and it was just, it was cool to see the mayor here and talking about how they're actually going to benefit the community, not just we're here to play basketball. They helped over the weekend with the Boys and Girls Club, giving, I think, food out to little children and stuff like that. So yeah, it's super cool. Super cool.
So are you guys recruiting basketball players for, because you have two things going on, the Majesty and then the basketball team or whatever, right? There's two different things going on.
The basketball league is the whole league, and then the Bakersfield Magic is the team that will practice here for that league.
Okay. So are you guys recruiting for the new league or not really?
They will be recruiting. We actually have a combine here at our facility that will be taking place in October. I'm not totally for sure on the date of that.
That's really cool. How exciting.
Yeah, it's crazy exciting. Yeah. Nerve-wracking kind of, but like you said, it's exciting. That's what exciting is supposed to be.
So you take a lot of the knowledge that you learned about like how the movement of your feet, how you mess up your knee. How's your knee now, by the way?
It still hurts, but I think that's inevitable when you have surgery. I try to avoid a lot of it. I wouldn't go under the knife really now unless something was seriously hurt. I think I could actually fix the problem. But my knee's stronger than it's ever been. I can move more weight than I've ever been able to move. It swells up and has pain, but that's because something's missing. It's not ever going to be 100%, I don't think.
Right. So you kind of avoid certain things though, right? Certain exercises?
Not really. I kind of will. Obviously, if it hurts and there's pain there, I will continue to push through that. But there's not really movement or anything that I can't do even with that surgery.
What do you tell people with like injuries like that? Do you tell them to kind of push through the pain, or do you tell them to baby their injury? Like how do you go about that?
I think awareness is important. They need to know the difference between pushing through pain and feeling something that's injured and something you shouldn't push through. I wouldn't tell a client that doesn't know their body well enough they need to push through the pain, but I would tell certain clients to push through the pain if they're just saying that hurts. But again, there's awareness in different types of pain. There's pains of your body saying, stop, I'm about to get injured, or this is just heavy and I want to put it down because I'm tired.
Right. No, I know. I was just wondering what you say, because I think a lot of people, I'm a trainer, so a lot of people kind of milk that. And then I'm like, well, in order to strengthen your core, you have to push through it, because, anytime people are planking for the first time, it's like my lower back. And I'm like, you kind of have to push through that a little bit. So I wondered how you handle that.
Yeah. And I think especially with people that aren't used to fitness, they definitely, the moment they pick weight up and it has a little bit of pain, they think that that's a hurt pain, and that you're absolutely right. That's just the first time of feeling their glutes engaging, holding weight while they squat down. So it's different pain.
So now what do? You're the manager. Are you still training people one-on-one? Are you going to start training or doing some like conditioning for the basketball player? What's your role now? How has it shifted?
I got out of classes. I don't do any of the classes. I helped get more coaches and get that into play. Mm-hmm. And then I'll be a filler coach if it's needed, which it's not normally needed. And then I help do cells for the volleyball and basketball courts. I go around and try to talk people into, because we do hourly rentals and there's not a lot of places to go play sports right now. So, excuse me, I thought it was cool that we have some place to offer some sports. And then I do my one-on-ones. But yeah, basically I got to take a break from classes, which it was needed. Classes are always fun, but classes can be a lot of work when you're running a lot of them.
And so when people come to you for advice about, their injuries and about how their feet work and everything, do you just stop and give it? What do you tell them?
It always depends on the injury. Most of the time, people are babying things. I do think that most of the time people are babying things. They have an injury. They like stubbed their pinky toe. That's not an injury. Like you can walk on your stubbed pinky toe. So it kind of it depends on the situation. I can be sympathetic there, and then I can also laugh at the excuse that was thrown out. But it just kind of depends of the situation. But I think a lot of people almost aren't ready to push for that, and then they get scared, if that makes sense.
Right. No, I totally feel you. I was just kind of wondering, and you bring up such good points about like your feet and how you're pressuring your body movement. And I'm just wondering how to correct things that have been wrong for so long. Like when you found out, hey, I've been walking wrong this whole time, or we're rocking and, on the front part and our calves are going, how do you correct a situation that's been bad for 20, 30, 40 years for a lot of these people?
I have to like almost look at the person. Each person's so individual. And again, movement patterns are basically, you change them by the way you move. Putting your shoes on, you walk more, like I said, on your heels, but your quads more dominant, but you don't use the same pivot points on the bottom of your feet. So that being said, thousands and millions of repetitions of just walking, you now could have caused knee damage because you don't pivot off the right part of your foot. So it just depends on that person. And I do recoding. I have a recoding program where I help people learn to relearn their movement. I even have a little documentary that's actually on my Instagram that I made, where it basically describes on why they have that. And if you go look at indigenous tribes on how they walk how we're supposed to, because they don't wear shoes. And then if you look at like nature, tigers, bears, and watch how they walk and run, that's actually a lot of similarities on how we walk and run, or how we should.
That's and I've heard that a lot about, yeah.
Yeah. So the indigenous tribes and the animals, if you look at them, they move almost identically the same. When if you look at, I would just say an American person.
So shoes have messed up our life, basically, right? Shoes have recomplained shoes for all of our.
For comfort. We want the shoes, for style and comfort, when we're supposed to avoid comfort and style's just made up. So I think that, if we go back and if you almost start to watch indigenous people move, you can almost look at their patterns and start to connect that. That's a hard one to do, but the easiest way to fix things, if I wasn't there, and what I would tell someone to do quickly would be lose their shoes, move their feet, have their toes facing forward, and do all their movements backwards. So if they're running, run backwards, because then you have to focus on that movement, and your brain's working, and your nervous system
sideways.
Is working.
Are you about a lot of sideways exercises?
Yeah. Just no normal running. Like you want to keep it, because if you run backwards, you're actually going to run like the indigenous tribe person, because you have to go back to how do I do this, because you don't really know how to run backwards. You got to relearn that, because most people.
I like that.
Yeah,
Jason, I want to watch your documentary. It's only on Instagram.
It is. It's a short one. I don't know. I
tell us your Instagram, so everybody. I know I just got you on Instagram, but tell everybody your Instagram.
My Instagram's just my name. It's Jason Coontz with no space between.
Okay. There's a couple that come up though when you look up Jason Coontz, because Hey, there's another one that's the traveling trainer. Is that yours too?
That's an old account of mine. Yes.
Okay, so don't follow that, guys.
Not the traveling trainer one. I think
just Jason Coontz together with no space. Okay, I got him.
Yeah, and I think it's I'm wearing like a NASA shirt walking around.
And then Facebook, do you have a Facebook page, or is it just?
I do. I just started a new Facebook group. I haven't started a main Facebook page. That's where I need to get moving on.
Okay.
But I do have a Facebook. It's the same thing, just my name. My last name spelled with Coontz, not like the writer with a K.
Yeah. Well, no, you're so fascinating. And what's the end game here? You're doing so many cool things. What would you like to eventually do?
Well, me and my girlfriend live in our van out front of the gym, and we plan on bouncing. So we kind of want to travel and do a lot of the fitness stuff. So we're kind of in process of trying to get more clients, but more online clients to transition over to being on the road a lot more.
Awesome. And then who's going to run the big thing you got going on? Who's going to run Elite with all of that going on?
I have a feeling the van thing's going to be a couple years from now. That's just the main.
You'll have
That's the head out. Yeah, and to be honest, I think in a couple of years when I get some of those basketball players under my belt, they'll want to be my online clients because I feel like I know exactly what I'm doing. I feel like I can help a lot of people, and it's just got to be seen. And
I'd love if you had a documentary about all that, about your travels, and then we can see that your video. I'd be fascinated. I think this is all fascinating.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I told you it was it's kind of weird. Yeah, it definitely seems like a goofy movie.
I love it. So I'm gonna tell everyone to follow you, and then they can kind of DM you if they have any questions.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, Jason, for coming on my show.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me, and it was very fun.
Felt right in the moment, felt right in the summertime. It felt right drinking cherry wine with you. Just wanted to own it, just wanted to take the time, learn all the things that I could about you. Now it's such a mess here, oh, we are just stressed here. Used to be so easy with you. Now I must confess here, oh, I must confess, dear, don't think I'm in love with you. Winter is coming and I don't know what to do, and there's no more use in running, no more running to you. And I don't want your loving, I don't wanna be just friends, knowing all this time we were playing pretend.
It's a mystery.